Good morning and welcome to Meet a Missioner Monday. I'm your host, Karen Bortvedt-Estrada, and I'm delighted to be with you here this morning. We started this Meet a Missioner Monday virtual gathering as a way to check in on our missioners around the world and those they work alongside and see how they're doing in these times of pandemic as we're all struggling. I want to take a moment first to remember all of the lives that have been lost due to COVID-19, and also just to pause and really hold in prayer all those who continue to suffer for many reasons because of this pandemic. And as we see this as our opportunity to check in with folks around the world, I would like to also take an opportunity to check in with all of you. We know many of you, dozens of you, tune in every week to hear from our missioners. So if you can comment, the comment section is either below me or off to the right-hand side, depending on your device, where you're tuning in from, and also let us know why you choose to join us. What brings you to Meet a Missioner Monday every week? This is a very formal survey just to see why you all come to be with us. Just, you get to check in with us, and so we want to take a moment to check in with you. So be sure to comment, let us know where you're from and what brings you to Meet a Missioner Monday. This is also your chance to ask questions. So each week with our missioner, we encourage you to send us questions you might have for them. We want it to be a dialogue. We want it to be a conversation with you as well. So as questions come up, be sure to drop those in the comments and we will get to them as soon as we can. Now I would like to welcome our guest, Cortney Freshwater, who is joining us from Bolivia. Cortney is a graduate of John Carroll in Ohio. I believe there's some Ohio thing that I'm supposed to do, but I'm not from Ohio, so I'm not even going to try that one out. Go Buckeyes. And she lived in Ohio before she came to Maryknoll. She worked with the elderly there. She served in Jamaica with the Passionists. So her heart is really all over the place, and she served in many different ways. So without further ado, Cortney, welcome. Thank you for being with us this morning. I think I could probably handle that. I served with someone from Ohio when I was in Cambodia, and he would always do it, and I would always be confused. But we're not here to talk about Ohio, as great as it is. We are here to hear more about your ministry in Bolivia. So to start us off, can you tell us about maybe one person who has really impacted you or inspired you in your time in Bolivia?
For me, I think that's a really hard question to answer. I don't think I can choose just one person because it has changed over the course of my time here. I think in the beginning, it would have been my host mom, Maria Rene, and my family, because they were essentially like my teachers. I didn't know any Spanish, and they really reinforced my skills. But then I think it would have changed to my abuelitas, my old ladies at the Hogar, who were so patient with me despite my Spanish struggles. And then I think it evolved to be my coworkers when I was able to get the language under my belt. And we were always just like having fun and laughing, and it was just always an adventure. And but I think if I had to choose in Entre Rios, which I guess I'll talk about later, but I think as a group, they've taught me so much more than I ever expected to learn, and they just bring me so much joy. And I can always, it's just an adventure to be working with them. And I never know what I am walking into every day, but it's guaranteed to just be a lot of fun most times. So yeah, I think as a group, I would say I've been impacted most by the kids that I work with. I don't know if that's cheating to answer your question, but.
No wrong answers here. So you've mentioned two different groups that you work with, the kids and then also the abuelitas, the Grammys that you work with. Can you tell us a little bit about your ministries you're involved with?
Yeah, of course. So first, I guess I'll talk about the kids. So I work kind of two main ministries. And so in the mornings, I go to La Casa de Los Niños. And La Casa de Los Niños is a community. It's about, I think, like 65 families. And it's honestly like a little self-run town. And in the community, there's an alternative school in the corner of the community. And so it's kind of a mix. It's an alternative school where regular ed kids go to, but also kids with behavioral, intellectual, multiple disabilities are also welcome into the classes. And it's not just the kids in the community, but people come from outside of the community for their kids to go to the school. And so in the mornings, I go to La Casa de Los Niños, and I specifically work with kids with disabilities. So I partner with Hime. She's a physical therapist, and we do kind of group activities. Sometimes it's different therapies, sometimes it's sensory activities, educational activities. It just kind of depends on what group of kids that we have that morning. And then after, I work one-on-one with a kid with disability, whoever's in my schedule for the day, and we'll just do different sensory activities or behavioral practices, and just really reinforcing things that they're learning in class, and so that they're able to get more individual attention, especially because it is hard when you are in a big class or a big group. So I'm just there to kind of reinforce their behaviors and their education. So that's what I do every morning. And I also do this, I work with Joe and Philo's foundation, who are two other missioners here. And I do the same activities with kids in a town called Entre Rios. And it's like 6 hours away from Cochabamba, where I live. And I do house visits. So I don't go to the schools, but I go to their houses and work with kids one-on-one. So that's part of what I do. And then in the afternoons, I go to Hogar San Jose. And Hogar San Jose is a home for the elderly. It's run by sisters, I think it's Sisters of the Abandoned Elderly. And so there are about 150 residents, both men and women. And it's similar to a nursing home, but I would say it's a lot more of people who are sick, people who are from the street or don't have family. So really a lot of elderly who have been abandoned for whatever reason. So when I go there, it's always so much fun, because that is more of a accompaniment. I go and I get to just hang out with some abuelitas. And so I just go and I sit and I chat and I listen. I sometimes dance and make myself look like a fool. And I really have some really focused, specific relationships that I've really fostered there. And then I also help with just like the dinner routine and the nighttime routine with a lot of the ladies. So yeah, that's kind of what I do here.
That's great. When you're talking about the abuelitas that you work with, it just makes me think of my own grandparents and the folks in my life, and just what a joy it is to just be present and to learn that wisdom that those folks can pass on. So for those just joining us, we are talking with Cortney Freshwater, who's a Maryknoll missioner serving in Bolivia. If you do have any questions for her about life in Bolivia, about what it's been like for her there, please drop those in the comments and we'll get to them shortly. The next question I have for you is, how has COVID-19 and the pandemic impacted your work? A lot of what you describe is with people and close together, working one-on-one and in relationships. So what does ministry look like for you, and what does it look like for you now?
Yeah, great question. COVID-19 has really actually now starting to impact Bolivia. I don't think we've reached the peak of it, but Bolivia was very proactive. The government was very proactive in shutting things down early and hoping to not get it to spread. So we were in a very strict quarantine where we were only allowed out once a week. And they also shut down. So in terms of my ministries, all schools were shut down. So the Casa de Los Niños, the doors to the community were closed, and school has stopped and kind of gone online. so I wasn't able to go to the Casa de Los Niños. And then Hogar San Jose obviously also shut their doors because they are a more vulnerable population in terms of this disease. So, and I was able to kind of get back to La Casa de los Niños for a few weeks, but we actually just started strict quarantine round 2 today. So we are not allowed out at all until next week. So with that being said, I have a really hard time sitting still, and being locked inside is kind of torturous for me. And also knowing that so many people are on the streets in Bolivia. Poverty is a very real thing here. And so Juan, who also lives here in the volunteer house, we kind of brainstormed and thinking of the people who live day to day, whether they're homeless people or whether they're street vendors, that they don't have, the security that I have and that a lot of other people have. So we started a meal project, which we've gained a ton of support, thankfully, from people back in the States. And so we did the meal project for about a month and a half of the 2-month quarantine. So every day, 7 days a week, Juan and I, and occasionally a volunteer, this is Marlena, she would come and help us. And we would just cook a different meal every day. And we did that. And we were feeding around, depending on the day. In the beginning, it was just 30, 35 people. And then it grew to be 80, 90 people every day. So we did that. And we actually just started it up again today. So Juan is downstairs serving the food by himself right now. But yeah, so we got creative in trying to reach populations that really needed it. And it was an awesome ministry. And because we got to really develop relationships with people, and that they weren't just faces coming to our gate. Like we really had just these awesome friendships with people who, we had so many incredible people come. One of them, he was, I guess, a regular, but he would come and he's helped us serve a few times, but he's also, someone gave him vegetables, and instead of him keeping them for himself and cooking them, which I think any normal person would have done, he donated them to us, even though he really doesn't have much of anything. And so there have been a lot of touching moments like that have kept us, I think, really just humbled and appreciative. And so I think this temporary meal ministry has just been a highlight. It's also kept me very sane. So yeah, that's kind of what we did and what we are now continuing to do for the next few weeks while we're in quarantine again.
It's such a great story of someone really sort of paying it forward. And it reminds me of Loaves and the Fishes, except this time it was vegetables, and making that turn into so much more. I also love, as you're sharing, the fact that this is like the adaptability and being able to say, where's there a need? The need has changed. I'm not just a missioner in my ministry, I'm a missioner in my whole time here. So that's great to hear about. I have one question for you. What did you make? Because I know food is different. So probably the food you knew how to make from home is different than what your average Bolivian would make.
Yeah, well, I am very much someone who loves vegetables and like fresh produce, and salads and vegetables are not the main source of nutrition here. It's a lot of carbs. It's a lot of rice and potatoes and fideo pasta. And so that was definitely a change for me, especially learning how to, I love to cook, and I'm able to cook rice and potatoes and those things in small quantities. So it was definitely a learning curve to do that for 80 to 90 people every day. But yeah, a lot of our, like today we made vegetable rice because I always try to sneak in, I guess, healthier options that can give them energy and nutrition. So we made just kind of like a vegetable rice medley, and with potatoes and salchicha, which is like hot dogs. here and they love them. So that's what we made today. And I mean, in the past, we've made like pasta with tomato sauce and ground beef. And we always have like bread or a salad or yogurt or fruit. So we really try to give them nutritional things and not just, obviously we want to fill them up, but also in like a healthier way. So it's it's either rice or pasta every other day with something else. It's a good mixture.
Now I'm hungry. So for those just joining us, we're talking with Cortney Freshwater, who is a Maryknoll missioner serving in Bolivia. If you do have any questions for Cortney, please drop those in the comments. And I know you also got a shout out from Mom and Dad, so I want to be sure to pass that on to you. They are watching. We have one question that has come in. Dad doesn't get a hi too, just Mom?
Hi, Dad.
The first question that's come in is, what has been the biggest challenge for you so far in mission?
Oh, good question. I think for me, I think it's changed. I think in the beginning, easily, my biggest challenge was the language. I came in knowing nothing other than hola, ¿cómo estás? So I think for me, and I'm such an extroverted person and I love to talk to people and just like share and just everything. And so when I came here, I so badly wanted to communicate with people. And it was very difficult, not only because of the language, but the culture here, people are very reserved. And me being from the Midwest and also living in Jamaica, where people are not reserved, you can talk to anybody on the street, in the grocery store. That was very different when I came here. People were almost afraid to talk to me, I think, which was just like heartbreaking for me. I didn't know how to get over that hump. And so as my language skills developed, I think I was able to connect with people in my work sites and my coworkers, and also just people on the street and in the market. I had the confidence to start a conversation or say something. And I think once I would do that, people were more open and like, okay, like this is okay to talk to her. So I think that was the biggest challenge in the beginning. And now that I feel pretty confident in my ability to communicate with people, I think my biggest challenge is, I think when I work with my kiddos, sometimes because I work with kids who have severe to profound disabilities. So some of the kids I work with can't speak, they can't walk, they can't essentially do anything for themselves. And so when I be working with them, it's, some sensory just work and doing different things to improve their quality of life. And there were many times, and sometimes I'm like, what am I doing? Like, what am I bringing? Am I really impacting their life or bringing any joy to their life? Because they can't tell me, if they're happy or if they're sad or if they're upset or what's bothering them. I can only really tell if they're crying or they're laughing. And so I think that not having that direct communication to knowing, are you happy? Like, what can I do to bring you more joy? And I think it's over time, I've come to realize that progress looks a lot different for a lot of different people. And sometimes it's just that smile, and like those kids' laughters and smiles, like, are the things that bring me most joy in my time here. So it's not always about reaching an academic goal or, getting from point A to point B. It's just doing what I can and just like being present to each person. And my presence can just be good in and of itself. So I think those are two of the challenges that I faced the most.
Awesome. Another question that has come in is, where do you get support? Which I think kind of connects to those challenges.
Yeah, 1,000%. I think I'm extremely blessed, very lucky. I don't lack in support. I'm also, if I am having a bad day, I'm not afraid to hide it, or I'm not afraid to ask or tell someone, hey, like, it's not a good day. And so, like, when I'm at La Casa de Los Niños, I mean, some days are hard. I mean, some days, I've been bitten, I've been kicked, and it's not malicious. It's just part of um, living, I guess, with certain disabilities. And so there have been days that have been really rough, and people at my work we all recognize each other's needs and each other's struggles. And so when one of us is having a really rough day, like, we just really bring each other up and just try to make each other laugh and get through the day. And same, I feel like when I go to Hogar San Jose, like, my abuelitas, they all are like my grandma. Like, I sometimes feel like if something happened in the morning or something didn't go well, or I can go to Hogar San Jose and they'll be like, how are you doing, honey? And I'll be like, let me tell you. And so I feel like even though I'm technically there for them, it's such a give and take. It's such a mutual relationship, which I think is how it should be in any place. Like, it's not just one person giving and another taking. You have to have that mutual respect and understanding. So I get support from people in my sites, and then I am so supported and so loved by people back in the States, like my family, my friends. They have listened to countless stories that don't necessarily mean anything to them, because they can't picture the people I've been with, or, the person I'm telling a story about. And they still are always willing to listen endlessly. So I think I have support from so many people, both here and back in the States.
Such a huge blessing to have support in both places, and really speaks well of your family and friends that they want to join you on this journey, even if they're not there physically. So way to go, family and friends. From being a missionary, I can tell you what a difference that makes. Another question has come in from Ms. Anna Ross. In what way has this experience enlightened you?
In what way has this experience enlightened me? Good question. I think, going back to talking about the kids that I work with, I think I've learned things that I didn't know that I didn't know. I don't know if that makes sense, but there are things that just about being present. And while I was in Jamaica, their whole, I guess, one of their pillars was about accompaniment and just being present, which is such a hard concept, especially coming from the States, where it's always go, 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 and we have to be doing things. And I'm very much, I have that in me, and I know that. And so, but also having the experience of accompaniment in Jamaica, I've had both experiences. And so coming here to a culture that is very much slower, even though I'm living in a city, I think I've been enlightened in just how important presence is for people, and how important it is to just listen. And people really need validation. And I've recognized that in myself as well. In the moments where I don't need a solution. I don't need to be told anything. I just need someone to hear what I'm saying and how I'm feeling about a certain situation. And so I think a lot of my enlightenment has just come from being very present in the kids, where I'm working with a kid or holding a kid that can't communicate with me at all. That has been like just a tremendous journey, because I'm not a mom, but I put myself in the shoes of these moms and these dads who bring their kids, who want the best for their kids, and how hard it is, not only for the kid, but for the parents, to just try to give this kid that you love so much the best life that they can have, and what that looks like. And it's different for everybody. And so for me to try to provide like the best services, whether it's educational or that I can to improve their life. And sometimes it's just holding a kid and trying to alleviate some of the pain that they have in their body and making them laugh. And it's just, I've been very enlightened by how powerful accompaniment has been. And a lot of people are all about numbers. And I felt like with the meal project, so many people wanted to know how many people were we feeding, which is great. And of course, we want to impact and help as many people as possible. But to me, it was more about, okay, how many relationships am I fostering within the people that are coming? How many people can I impact in the way that they know that this is a meal, but this is also just us showing that someone cares for you. Like, we want to help you. We want you to know that you're not alone and that we can listen, we can chat. And like, that has become more meaningful and enlightening than any number of people, any just statistics could ever provide.
That's beautiful, because I feel your ministries really highlight how you have the both, and you have the presence and you have immediate needs that you are meeting. You even named the number of meals that you served. Someone actually sent in another question asking if you could tell us another story of someone that you met through your meal program.
Of course. Oh my gosh, I have so many. So I think I'm going to tell two, if that's okay, to whoever asked this question. One, and I've kind of mentioned it in a few of my posts. There was this man. I loved him. He was my absolute favorite. His name was Umberto, and he didn't come right away in the beginning, but he stumbled upon, a lot of it was just walking by our gate. We had a sign on our gate, and so that's how people found out, and just word of mouth. So he just happened to be walking by, and he was like, "Are you giving out food? Like, are you giving out meals?" And so we invited him, and we gave him a plate of food, and he came back every day. And he would always bring a plate to take back for somebody, in one of his neighbors. And he lived alone. He was older, but he had just this, and I don't know how to describe it, just this like energy about him. Like, he just had this amazing spirit about him, that even though he lived alone, he didn't really have anything. He was still so happy, and every day he came, he just like you couldn't help. Like, if you were upset, I just remember feeling upset. One day, I don't know what about, I was just not having a great morning, and he came to the gate, and I just lit up. I was like, "Umberto," and I was like, "How are you?" And he just has this way of making you feel good, and he was so unbelievably grateful. And then towards, I'd say in the middle of our month and a half of this ministry, I could just tell he was physically not getting better. Like, he was just getting ill, and we were getting worried about him. And he had a neighbor who, they were kind of buddies, and so they would come and get food sometimes together. And then I had this feeling, and this is kind of a sad story, but I promise I'll have a happy story afterwards. But I just had this feeling one morning, and I just didn't feel good. And his neighbor came, and he had told us that Umberto had passed away. And as sad as it is, the thing, and Juan and I both were very touched by Umberto, and we both were talking afterwards, and we said, we're so sad that he's gone, but it also makes us so happy that we know, and I'm like so sure that he felt this way as well, that he wasn't alone in his death. Like, not only was he being fed, but like, he knew how much we loved him and cared for him, and it was so mutual. And I felt that even though I had known Umberto for 3-4 weeks, like, he was just like a part of my family. Like, he was just a part of, I don't know, my experience here. And that was just very, very impactful for me. So that was one story, a little sad, but then another story, she's also one of my favorites. I feel like they're all my favorite. it's this woman named Celia, and she's actually in one of the pictures on the slideshow with Juan and I. She's the woman in the picture. She was so sweet. She came every day, but she always came pretty late. I think she was a little nervous and she didn't like the crowds, because sometimes we had lines of people and waiting for food. And so she always tried to come later. And anytime, there were a few times that we had ran out of food. And so, but because we had developed this relationship with her, this friendship, I would always say, we have to cook her something. Let's fry an egg and cut up some tomatoes or something. Like, I'm not sending her away. I can't. And so Juan, several times he would go tell her, like, just wait a second, we're throwing something together for you. And she was always so grateful. And she would ask to sweep, like she'd ask for a broom because she wanted to sweep like in front of our gate. She just wanted to do something for us. And then I remember the last day she came and she like had knitted these little things for Juan and I, as just like an appreciation gift. And she's like, I don't have much. I'm sorry. It's something so small, but I just wanted to thank you both. Like, you've become family to me. And so after quarantine, we actually exchanged numbers, and I'm hoping to visit her once quarantine lets up. And because she really has, like, I feel like she's just like another one of my abuelitas from the Hogar. She's just like family. So a lot of these people have just become part of my life here.
That's wonderful. Thomas Rowan wrote in, and I think it perfectly frames what you're saying. He says, ministry of presence is a beautiful way to be with others and their journey. I think that really speaks to what you were just saying. One last question that has come in is, what is your relationship there with the local church? How do you connect with them?
So that has been an interesting, I think, dynamic for me. So, well, all the churches have been closed, first off. So I haven't been able to actually be in a church for a long time. But prior to COVID, I think I really actually struggled, because for me and my faith, I'm very much someone, and anyone who has lived with me will just reflect what I'm saying, because I'm someone who's very much into the music and into, like, I want to move and dance, and I like lively, I guess, services, and that's how I express my faith. And to me, faith is just action, and so that's like how I most resonate with it. And here, I feel the faith here is unbelievable, and a lot of people, I don't remember the percentage, but most people here are Christian, and Catholic being a huge part of that. And so I'm not a minority in that sense, but I feel like a lot of the services I have been to are very, I don't know, westernized or traditional, and very just, I don't know, calm, and almost, and this would be my personal opinion, almost boring to me. Because, when I lived in Jamaica, it was dancing and clapping and moving, and the service would be 2 hours, but it didn't feel long because you were having fun and you were in a community. Where I feel like here it's you're in and you're out, and I don't connect on a deeper level with that. But with that being said, people here have an unbelievable faith in God, and they really revere like Mother Mary and everything in that regards. So the faith is very deep. Also, I have resonated deeply, not in a church, not in a physical sense, but Pachamama and the respect people have in Mother Earth is something that I've like fallen in love with here. And just some of like their different like ceremonies and traditions, and just to honor the earth. And I love that, because I think we need more of that, especially with the climate crisis that we are facing in the world right now. So yeah, I think I resonate with like their daily practices and stuff with Pachamama, but I don't necessarily resonate deeply in terms of like their service, like their masses and how they, I guess, worship.
There's so many different dynamics. I know during, I think it was Palm Sunday or somewhere around there, I saw there was a procession you all had there in Cochabamba. And they processed all the way through the city with the palms, and people were out, which living in a country where that I had never seen that happen on that large scale here in the US.
Absolutely. And they have like a holiday called Urcupiña, which is like it's in honor of, I guess, Mary. And it's an all night. You start at midnight and you start in the town center. And it's not just a few people. I mean, this is thousands and thousands of people will process. And I think by the end, if you start at midnight, I got home at like 9 o'clock in the morning. I was absolutely exhausted because you walk to the place where I guess the Virgin Mary appeared. And they have masses all day, and it's just a big like festive celebration. And I think I'd walked 15 miles that day, because you walk the entire, and I didn't even walk back to the city. I was like, absolutely not. I'm getting in a troofy. I'm not walking home. So it was, I mean, just their devotion and their commitment is so cool, and it's so fun to be a part of.
Amazing. So we have two final questions. I'm going to give them both to you so we can wrap things up. The first is, if you could speak to relatives and friends who are concerned about your well-being there in Cochabamba, what would you say to them? And then also there is a request for a story about you playing Santa Claus that apparently the world needs to know.
No. Okay, well, I'll talk about, the first question was about concerns of family and friends. Right?
Yeah. Let me read you verbatim here.
Sorry.
What message you have for relatives and friends who are concerned about your well-being?
Oh, I'm fine. Don't be worried about me. Really, I mean, the situation, I don't know if this is in terms of coronavirus or just in general. I don't know, I'd say I'm a pretty fearless person. There have been a few times here during the elections and whatnot where things have gotten pretty dicey, but generally speaking, Bolivia is such a peaceful country. I've never felt unsafe. And now that coronavirus is here, obviously we are having to take more precautions, but I mean, I still don't feel unsafe. And yeah, I don't know. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. I really, it would be not needed. The Santa Claus question is from my dad. I know it is. And it's not even a question. It just wants me to tell. Yeah, so when I did a year of service prior to this in Jamaica, and I was in church. Like I said, church in Jamaica is very lively and it's fun. And so during close to Christmas, they wanted to do, there were kids within the parish and they wanted every kid to be able to get a gift. And so we got all these donations together and wrapped them. And they wanted someone to dress as Santa and bring them these gifts in a bag out during church, like after communion, which seems a little, I don't know, sacrilegious is a strong word, but a little contradictory and funny. But it's Jamaica. And so they did have Mr. Sinclair. He was supposed to be Santa, and he has a white big beard, and he would have been perfect for the part. And then he shaved his beard and then said he wasn't going to be able to be Santa. And then everyone just expected me to be Santa, which is just funny as the only white lady in this Jamaican church. And I came out, and I've never been Santa before. I had, a pillow shoved into the suit, and I just totally blanked on what to say. I did not know what to say. And so I just said, "Bring me the children." And it sounded very creepy. And it was just, and everyone was whipping out their phones and laughing and pointing. And it was all in good fun because I knew everybody. I was a part of this parish. So that is a mission story.
And that's the heart of a missioner. Go where you're needed and change and adapt and become whatever you need to be to help out and meet the need. So, Cortney, thank you for joining us. We have a message from Mateo, who says to give Juan a hug for him. And with that,
Who a hug?
Mateo Greeley says to give Juan a hug for him. So you
Okay.
can pass on that hug since he is within your quarantine bubble.
Will do.
Thank you so much for being with us today, and good luck with your ministries.
Thank you so much.
And we hope that all of you will join us again next week for Meet a Missioner Monday. We will be joined by Father Charlie Dittmeyer, who is actually my boss when I lived and served in Cambodia. He works with a project called the Deaf Development Program and has dedicated his entire life of ministry to working with the deaf community. So we hope you will join us here 11 a.m. on July 6th. Until then, be well, stay safe, and peace be with you.